Hey friends, John Bush here. I want to thank you for joining me today, August 15th, 2020. Today we will be hosting the 5th International Freedom Cell conference call. These conference calls are super important. They're always well attended, and during the calls we basically share what's the latest and greatest with the Freedom Cell Network. We share some tips and strategies on how people can grow the Freedom Cell Network. And most importantly, it serves as an opportunity for people to connect and share best practices. So for those of you not familiar with the Freedom Cell Network, essentially it's an idea whose time has come. And most people are well aware that the world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket. There are numerous problems going on, from protests and riots all across the country to COVID-19 and the government's despotic response to it. I'm 36 years old, and never before in my lifetime has there been such chaos, such unrest, and never before has the state been more tyrannical. And so as a result of that, a lot of people are looking for solutions. Some people are protesting. Some people are working with local governments to defund the police. Other groups are protesting and arming up and marching on the Capitol. Other people are supporting presidential candidates, whether it's Trump or Biden or Jojo Jorgensen for the Libertarians. Well, I've done a whole lot of that in my lifetime, whole lot of activism, a whole lot of encouraging firearms ownership, a whole lot of police accountability activism, a whole lot of politicking and getting involved in the legislature. And honestly, it was not satisfying for me, the results of those actions. There was a whole lot of effort, a whole lot of input with very minimal output when it came to the freedom that I enjoyed as a result of it. When I finally did begin to enjoy freedom in my life, practical freedom, and freedom as a mindset, was when I began to explore post-political solutions, when I began to create alternative institutions, engage in alternative institutions, and educate and promote alternative institutions. This is when I began to experience more freedom in my life, both like spiritual freedom, figurative freedom, and literal practical freedom. So that's essentially what we're doing with the Freedom Cell Network. And again, I want to join you. For those of you just joining us on the live feed, you'll see down below there is a conference call tonight at 5 p.m. Central, international conference call. There'll be people on this call from all across the country, from all across the globe, people that are involved in the Freedom Cell Network or want to get involved in the Freedom Cell Network. So RSVP to the Facebook event, or go ahead and set up the Zoom link there and wait for us and come on whenever you're ready, 5 o'clock. So what is the Freedom Cell Network, and why have I been banging on it a lot for the past few months? The Freedom Cell Network is a decentralized group of individuals that are working together cooperatively in small little groups of around 8 people that we call an inner cadre. These inner cadre groups are establishing common goals. For example, we're going to train to use firearms together, or train in self-defense together. We are going to work together to have food storage and to make sure our homes are safe and secure. We are going to work together to create a homeschool co-op. We are going to create a entrepreneurial mastermind to support one another as we grow in prosperity. The possibilities are endless, but these groups are working together to achieve common goals and to support the freedom and growth of the individual members. Doesn't stop there, though. There's a lot of power and a lot of benefit that the group members are getting from just having that inner cadre group. But the magic of the Freedom Cell Network is that inner cadre group then goes and encourages other people to create inner cadre groups. So now you imagine I have a group of 8 people. You have 8 groups of 8 people. These people work together in what we call a middle cadre group of approximately 64 people. You might be asking, why do we choose the number 8? Well, there's a whole body of research predominantly brought out by this gentleman named John David Garcia that says a group of 8 people tends to maximize the creativity of the group. Now, this gentleman, John David Garcia, who was like a philosopher, scientist, just several decades ago, put out a lot of great work. One was called Creative Transformation. His value that he held highest for humans, it was creativity. Me personally, one of my highest values is freedom. But freedom and creativity really go hand in hand. But nonetheless, he did a lot of scientific research and actually working together with these groups that had common goals and worked together. And they found that whenever you have 5 people, there's not enough people, there's not enough ideas, there's not enough people to work together to achieve the goal. Whenever you have 12 or 15 people especially, then there starts to have bureaucracies and there's less group cohesion. So he found this magic number of 8. So we're taking that number of 8. 8 people have the inner cadre. Boop. Then they create 8 other groups. Bloop. Does that work there? There's 8 little fingertips. Now you have 8 groups of 8. That's 64 people. They form a middle cadre. They work together to achieve common goals, to come to the aid of one another, to set up trade routes. That's some groups in Dallas-Fort Worth. It's a big, giant area. That's one of the highest pockets of the Freedom Cell Network is in Dallas-Fort Worth. And they're like, hey, we want to work with the Freedom Cell Network so we can create trade routes. Some of us live over here on the west side of town. Some of us live all the way over here on the east side of the DFW Metroplex, huge, big geographic area. So we want to leverage the Freedom Cell Network to find little meeting points along the way. So if we borrow a power tool, we can drive to the middle to drop it off, and this person comes from over here. That's the middle cadre. Now we're going to kick it up a notch, and we are going to create what we call the meta cadre, which is 8 groups of 64, which is around 544 people. Now, the inner cadre preferably is super local in a certain part of town. The middle cadre, the 64 people, is spread out all across the city or across a certain smaller geographic area. Then the meta cadre is spread out perhaps across a state or across a region. And the beauty of this system is that it remains decentralized. It doesn't become hierarchical and bureaucratic. So you have your small group, then you have your little middle cadre, and then as more people add to the numbers, then there's simply more middle cadres, and then there's more meta cadres. This is essentially what we're experimenting with, and I want to show you guys it's not just a theory or an idea that we're talking about. Check it out. This is the Freedom Cell Network map. You can go to freedomcells.org, freedomcells.org. You can sign up on this website. And essentially, we've created a place for like-minded people to find other like-minded people with the goal of joining these inner cadre groups and these middle cadre groups. And so we have over 3,000 people that are participating. This is a really big deal. Essentially, what we're doing is creating our own social organization as a replacement for the state and government as a means of organizing ourselves socially. Now, let's face it, we're all human beings, right? We're human animals. It's in our nature to socialize, to have little groups, tribes, whether it's the family unit, a extended family, or a group of families that play together, hang out together, help each other raise their kids, right? This is in our nature. However, the state, which is an institution that exercises a geographic monopoly on the initiation of force and violence, it's an institution where a small group of people take power and then they put forward rules and controls, laws and edicts that essentially force the rest of the population in order to do what they want, whether they agree with it or not. This is antithetical to our human nature, to our inherent free will as free, independent human beings. And so what we want to do is create this new form of social organization that lines up more with our inherent freedom so we as human beings can work together and thrive. Now, that's a utilitarian benefit that could help us as individuals, but there's also a practical benefit because at this time in history, we see a rapid expansion of the technocratic control state, right? This is something that many of us have been researching and espousing and sharing and trying to sound the alarm for decades now, that the fact that there are some very evil people that have seized control of the power centers of society, whether it's government, academia, health, media. They are leveraging those institutions in a very controlled, pre-planned way There's secret society roundtable groups that have been at this for centuries. They don't think about the next 4 years election cycle. They don't think of in a reactionary paradigm about what's happening today and what can we do to respond to it today. They have laid out a plan and they are carrying it out methodically, often using stealth and deception. And that plan, the end result of that plan, is a top-down, hierarchical, centralized, technocratic, global, dictatorial government, right? I know it sounds like Alex Jones and it's too crazy to be true, but it's true, and you can read their own writings. And so for those of us that have been aware of this agenda for decades now, it's very easy to see when the pieces are getting put into place. And this agenda has only been accelerated with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, plandemic, scamdemic, whatever you want to call it. The bottom line is that the growth of government intrusion into our lives through police state controls and through surveillance, especially when it comes to health, has totally blown up big time. And so, as I was saying, not only outside of all that stuff taking place, is there a utilitarian benefit to create a decentralized peer-to-peer social organization that operates on consensus and respect for individual sovereignty. That's beneficial in itself to create an environment where human beings are able to flourish and interact more peacefully in a mutually beneficial way with their fellow humans. But because we have this situation where there is a terrible growth of this tyrannical, despotic state, it is all the more important that we experiment with alternative means of organizing along with our fellow human beings. And we have created one of those alternative means. It is the Freedom Cell Network. It was an idea that I birthed back in 2014, shared it on some podcasts, shared it on some speeches at some conferences. And then I went really deep into raising my kids and focused on my business so I could lift myself out of poverty. Thank God for Derek Bros of the Conscious Resistance. During that time, he took this idea and ran with it, spread it like wildfire, like brush fires of liberty in the minds of men. He spread it all across the globe, and it's grown immensely to the point where now we have over 3,000 people. And so what I want to do is invite you to participate in the 5th annual Freedom Cells International Conference Call that's taking place today at 5 p.m. Central. You can read the comments there. You can read the description for this Facebook video or this YouTube video. There's a Facebook event. You can RSVP to get reminders, or you can go ahead and RSVP with the Zoom link down there. You can also call in. We want you to join this network. We want you to see what it's all about. There are already many different inner cadre groups, middle cadre groups that are benefiting from this. All right, so my computer's about to die. I'm going to take some questions, comments here. And yeah, Thad Crouch says, tell it, let's be effective and efficient at increasing freedom. That's right, Thad. Hope you are doing well. Star Rose says, John Bush, I like your info. Hey, I appreciate that. Join us. We are looking for folks to rock and roll with us and join in. Russell Bram says, I'm from DFW, but currently residing in Colorado. There's a lot of Freedom Cell folks in the Colorado area as well. Russell, so we hope that you are on the website. Hope that you'll get involved. Star Rose says, good info again. That's right. So folks, selling the farms in Sarasota, Florida. There's plenty of people in Florida, and if there's not people in your area, then you have the opportunity to join, to find people, to start with your friends, start with your family, start with close associates or whatever, and help us build out this Freedom Cell network. Looking to start a cell with a local farmer, Unloose. All right, this is Dylan Schneese. Sounds like somebody from the Unloose the Goose podcast, which is an agris podcast that we started. Check out unloosethegoose.com. Jack Spirko, Xavier Hawk, Nicole Williams. It's a great bunch. There's others, the Gaggly Geese, and we talk about stuff like this. We talk about how you can opt out of the state, how you can secure your freedom through agorism. So yeah, definitely check us out. And again, there's a lot of people that are on the comments that are checking us out that are like, hey, wow, this sounds like a cool thing. It's one thing to support. It's one thing to share something on Facebook. It's one thing to be like, hey, this sounds like a good idea. Well, we really invite you to join us, to participate, to form an intercadre group. to set this up for yourself, to join the Freedom Cells website and see if there's somebody in your area. New Mexico, it's already crazy here. Most restrictions in the country. Yeah, there's all these, there's so many people that know there's a problem. But when it comes to what are we going to do about the problem, there's like crickets. And so we have taken the time, we've invested money, time, energy, creativity. We've created this website. We've facilitated these calls. We've facilitated the expansion and growth of this network, and we want you guys to benefit from it. It's a volunteer-run movement. We have a small admin team. Our buddy Neil Rademacher is breaking his back to make sure that this website stays updated. He's updating when people have feedback and all sorts of stuff. So come join us. Come participate. We are really doing something special here, and the idea is to create our own social organization so we can better organize with our fellow human beings, and so that when the time comes, we have enough people where we can feel secure in our strength in numbers, and we can effectively opt out of the state. We can support one another. We can engage in mutual aid. We can set up our own health share program, for example, so people don't have to rely on the Western medical, pharmaceutical, congressional, industrial complex healthcare system. We can have our own emergency health share program. We can have our own micro lending platform for small businesses. We can have our own private defense force to protect us from criminals, public and private. We can have our own homeschool cooperatives. Different groups in the middle cadre of 64, let's say there's 30 families in that group of 64, they can all pool their resources to rent a space in a office building so they can create their own private school for the children. All sorts of stuff. So yeah, Jose says, okay, I'm on board. We got him. So go to freedomcells.org and we can link up. You can find if there's people in your area. This is what it's all about. Okay, so to sum up, ladies and gentlemen, the world is rapidly deteriorating into a nasty mush pot of infighting, divisiveness, polarization, tyranny, communism, fascism. It's really nasty out there. This has been accelerated with the COVID-19 agenda. This has been accelerated with the George Floyd protests and all the civil unrest that's taking place. There is a problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic that's going on. Problem, COVID, reaction, fear, protect us, solution, contact tracing. You have to have your vaccine or COVID pass, green light in order to get on a plane, so on and so forth. Same thing. Problem, George Floyd, police brutality, reaction, smashing stuff up in the street, immense anger, solution, defund the police, more chaos, Trump sending the Department of Homeland Security paramilitary into local cities, creating a dangerous precedent that soon enough will get used on the other right team. Now that's being used on the left. Problem, reaction, solution, Illuminati pyramid, shit's going down. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to vote for JoJo Jorgensen so she can get 2% of the electorate? Are we going to rally behind Trump so we can be further polarized and be involved in an us versus them paradigm where all of a sudden we used to be about genuine libertarian principles, but now we see ourselves defending the police and arguing that they shouldn't have money taken away, even though their budgets are largely inflated? Are we going to be in a Trump paradigm where all of a sudden we're applauding the Department of Homeland Security when just 5-10 years ago we denounced the entire institution and we saw it for what it rightfully was, yet another Gestapo police force that is going to be utilized against the American public? Do we go to city council to try to pass legislation to protect our rights? Or do we take freedom into our own hands? Do we create alternative institutions so we can demonstrate to people that freedom works, that decentralized, non-hierarchical, horizontal institutions can benefit us, that we don't need to rely on government, that we don't need to rely on the police, that we don't need to rely on the Western medical industrial complex, that we can take care of ourselves? And what we've done is created a network that you can participate in right now. of over 3,000 people that are like-minded, that are tired of the reactionary political paradigm, that are tired of the infighting, that are tired of debating on Facebook, and they're ready to go out, get their hands dirty, and build something new so that one day it can ultimately replace the state as a means of organizing socially. And whether it replaces it entirely and remains to be seen. But if people want to go do their thing over here and organize as governments over here, that's fine. We're going to organize in a decentralized, peer-to-peer, mutually beneficial, voluntary way. And we are going to grow our numbers to the point that we can shield ourselves from external aggression from the state when we ultimately declare our independence and say we're no longer participating in the government. And it's down years of the road, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. We need to think like the Illuminati of liberty, intergenerationally, do the hard work now to build this institution, to build the infrastructure so that when it grows and our children inherit it, our children aren't doing banking with Wells Fargo. Our children don't have Humana or Blue Cross Blue Shield for their health insurance. Our children aren't calling the police when there's problems, right? Our children were born into and benefited from the creation of our own private lending services, the proliferation of alternative currencies, silver, cryptocurrency, the creation of defense forces or self-defense training throughout our 10,000, 100,000 person network. And as we move forward through life, we keep building the network. We keep educating people about how beneficial it's been for us. And one day it can reach a point where we can opt out of all of this nonsense and where people begin to see, why do I need to participate in this state institution that takes 30 to 40% of my income and uses it to give out handouts, social services, bailouts to the biggest corporations, funding more foreign wars of aggression? I don't want to participate in that anymore. And now all of a sudden I have a viable alternative. Perhaps I can choose a different form of social organization to meet my wants and needs voluntarily. That's the vision that we have. And we're laying the groundwork now in the present so that in the future, we can have something very beautiful to pass on to our children. So we cannot think in a reactionary paradigm of the current election or a reactionary paradigm where we're responding to the politics of the day or to the tyranny of the day. No, we are proactively and productively building and creating the free society that we all deserve as free, independent human beings. And that's what it's all about. So check out freedomcells.org. Join us today for our 5th International Freedom Cell conference call at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can join the Facebook event to get updates. You can go ahead and click on the Zoom link and wait there in the chat room. Set an alarm on your phone or whatever. It's going down today, 5 o'clock Central. There's going to be a lot of people. Join the network. We need you. You need us. Peace and freedom. John Bush. I'm out. Let's do it.